Mark Zuckerberg was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it's got a lot of people asking, is the metaverse a failure? Is Meta's metaverse a failure? So, Dragon, you ready to get into it and talk about that?
No, I love this topic. Let's do it.
NFTs are changing the world, and change can feel complicated and scary. But listen, you don't need a computer science degree. You don't need to learn how to code. You just need practical skills to win.
If you are here, you are in the 1% of humans that are preparing for this major cultural shift. We're going to keep it fun. We're going to keep it light. We're going to make it practical. Welcome to NFTs Made Simple.
Just a reminder, we're not financial advisors. This is not financial advice, and you should do your own research.
Hey, let's get into it.
Yo, Dragon, I hope you are awesome. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks for subscribing. We're going to be bringing you the hottest topics. You don't need to spend your entire week reading and listening and all of that stuff. Pop in here once a week. We're going to let you know what is happening in the NFT and metaverse world. So, big news this that came up very recently. Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan Experience and was answering a lot of questions about where Meta's going. And I want to let you share some statistics here, but time and time again, as I'm talking with people, they're telling me that Zuckerberg failed, Meta has failed, their metaverse is garbage. You know, some of the examples of the graphics that we're seeing from Meta's metaverse horizon worlds, they look like cartoons. They don't look realistic. People are not excited about them. You're watching like a lot of floating blobs with no legs and no arms. And I just want to kind of talk about what our bold predictions are for this metaverse and talk about some of the things that Zuck has planned for the company. So, Dragon, why don't you give us some statistics, some data, something that's going to tell us more about where his metaverse is headed?
I would love to do that. And I love the analogy of, what our show does for people. I love the idea that, you got Dragon and Mark here that like just obsess about keeping our fingers on the pulse, and we're learning all this stuff. I remember, not everybody has time to learn about this stuff. You hear about it, but I love the fact that our show is like a psychological safe haven where you can, it's like a judgment-free zone where we don't really jump on one side of any coin, forgive the pun, cryptocurrency, but we're just interested in just keeping our finger and your finger on the pulse. So, on the topic of Meta and Metaverse, I think it's funny how quick people are to just talk about Zuckerberg failing. I mean, I think it's just obvious that everybody wants him to fail because he doesn't fail. So I just want to read a couple of headlines here just to give a little bit of juice to this podcast. So, this is from fool.com, which is an awesome website. It says it's safe to say that the metaverse experiment, right? So they're calling it an experiment. I'm sure that Zuckerberg wouldn't call it an experiment. The metaverse experiment from Meta Platforms, META, has thus far been a spectacular failure. And it says, despite billions of dollars being poured into crypto, blockchain, and metaverse projects, Meta has not been able to turn a profit. So one quick thing on that, if Zuckerberg was here right now, he would probably talk about the fact that you don't make a profit when you start things, especially when you step into this unknown zone. This is from economictimes.com. And it says, is Meta in trouble? So the news caused Meta's stock to crash 26%. So the word is out. The biggest ever one-day loss for a U.S. company. Think about how big that is. Wiping out more than $230 billion of its market value. Then on July 28th, Meta reported revenue of $28.82 billion in June 2002, a 1% decrease from 29. So what I want to say about that is, A, he's dumping a ton of money, which he has. You'll notice in these articles that they always end by saying he can afford to lose this money, right? So for those of you that are pining for Zuckerberg to fail, it's going to take some time, and that's not really how he wakes up. And then it just says, talks about why is Metaverse, failing. And here's an article right here from NASDAQ, actually, what has happened to Meta. So back in February, Meta announced that its Reality Labs segment, which is tasked with bringing Zuckerberg's vision of the Metaverse to life, that's Meta, lost over $10 billion in 2021. That's on top of a $6.6 billion loss in 2020. So you just see progressively, that's what's interesting, Mark, first of all, big props to Zuckerberg. I think that people have villainized him because he's so successful at entertaining you and your family all day, right? And, I don't see any people not using his platforms, and keep in mind that Instagram is one of them, right? So everybody's kind of villainizing him because he's successful. So everybody likes when that guy fails. So, you're looking since he announced this, and the metaverse was brand new. So he's an innovator. He was a guy that saw this before most people, and he went after it. So big props to him for that.
To be fair,
I know some people call him Zuckerberg, but I think he's still Zuckerberg.
To your point, a lot of people like to hate from below, for sure. But I will say, before, I'm going to let you finish your point here. Zuckerberg has made some decisions that I think I disagree with. But
how dare he? How dare he make a wrong decision?
He's got a complicated job, and I do think that my life is better with, and I'm more connected to people with the advent of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, et cetera, than were it not to be there. So I don't want to sit here and bow to the altar of Zuck, but I think that overall the world is better with what he's done. If you disagree, by the way, feel free to email us at nftsmadesimple.com
actually send all disagreements to Mark, not me. So you just gave me an idea for the Meta's 2.0. We got to let somebody from Long Island, Long Island, they have funny accents there. Somebody in Long Island was reported saying that he has a beta instead of Meta because his is better than Meta. So that's all I really have to say about Meta. While we're sitting here, because, Mark and I, when we'll talk a little bit about this, we've had the ability to experience what is just a far superior metaverse experience, and there's so many more with spatial.io or .com. Spatial.io. We had a recent podcast episode with our friend Mitch, but right now, if you look at Meta, it's not a great experience, and Mark will talk a little bit about it. But once again, look where we are. If Meta is everywhere and it's like Real Player One 10 years from now, everybody's going to realize why people like Zuckerberg are successful, because they don't stop, just because they haven't gotten it right. So I know that you have had some experience. We've both been in spatial, but you've also had some experience in Meta. So why don't we talk about it?
So the biggest knock I think that people have on Horizon Worlds is Facebook or Meta's version of the metaverse, right? I think the biggest knock that people have on it is the people that are in there don't look like people. Have you played Wii Sports before or any of those Wii games? That's what people look like. We look like little blobs with no arms and no legs.
Do you think he did that on purpose, though? Do you think he was looking for that look?
I don't think so. I think so. There's a few things that he brings us up in the interview with Rogan that I think is important to notate. But I think that Zuck is playing the long game. He doesn't need to have premium graphics right now. Obviously, he has tons of eyeballs and attention. And as he releases new pieces of hardware, I think the software will grow with that. Okay. So one of the issues that you run into here, and again, Zuck talks about this in good detail, is that so there's so many interesting things in that interview. But one of the things that's interesting is that when you meet with someone in person, there's a lot of nonverbal cues. It's not just about talking. And one of the things that is important is the way that somebody's face looks. What are the facial expressions? See, Dragon just made this little face where he's like, oh yeah, I understand. And I could see by his facial expression that he gets what I just said, right? It wasn't just a blank we blob. It was an actual facial expression that let me know that he thinks, and this, if I say something to my wife and she makes a face, I know, oh, I said the wrong thing, right? Or, and so on and so forth. So what Zuck is really focused on right now is better eye and facial tracking so that you can see what somebody is looking at, so that you can actually have that feeling of eye contact with someone.
Let me ask you a question about that though, because I heard that part of the interview. Is he really, I just got the feeling that he was talking about things that might not be, but just to get us interested in where he's moving. Like we've heard, because think about it, in order to track my actual expressions from this reality to Meta, I would have to wear like a haptic suit or at least a facial, sensor suit. So, I don't know how realistic that is, changing it to like, I could push a button that says sad or happy or curious or whatever. Maybe that's what it is. They're talking about smell as well. But I just think that, we don't really know, we're just so early what we're seeing now is it's out there. And there's other people, there's competitors. Anybody would love to be the main source and platform, but we're seeing the challenges being made now. So they're in the hunt. So as a consumer, as a person that's going to use the metaverse, I think we're in great shape because we're going to watch all these juggernauts fight and try to up one another. So that's the bright side I see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're so early in the game, and I think one of the things that happened this year that was a big deal was the release of the Oculus 2, the Oculus Rift 2, which was very affordable, $300. You get a virtual reality experience, which is good. I think it's a good experience. You can use these virtual headsets in that spatial.io program. And there's a lot of programs you can use that hardware in. What Meta is doing, what Zuck is doing here later this year, is releasing an upgraded version of that, which sounds like is going to have better facial recognition, better graphics, just an upgrade overall. It's going to be a more expensive piece of hardware. I think he's placing it somewhere around $1,200, but that's still consumer friendly enough that if you're a professional, if you're business, you could use it. Hey, what's up? Mark here. Just want to take you on a quick break with a resource I think is really going to help you. Some of the concepts that we're covering in the show sound really complicated and really technical. But listen, you don't need to code. You don't need to get a master's degree in computer science. All you need to do is have the right resources. We're going to make it simple. We're going to make it easy. I've got a link below. Go to www.nftsmadesimple.com. That's nftsmadesimple.com. You're going to get a free cheat sheet there. It's 100% free. What are you waiting for? Go get the cheat sheet. We're going to break down some of the key definitions in ways that are really practical and really simple. Go to nftsmadesimple.com right now to get your free cheat sheet. That's nftsmadesimple.com. All right, let's get back into the show. So those I think are things that are happening, and I think that what they're doing over there at Meta is recognizing that there's a lot of nuance to making this thing work. Another thing that you can find out very quickly when putting on the Metaverse goggles and joining Horizon Worlds is you can start to feel kind of nauseous. You can feel some motion sickness because your brain is not like there's a problem with your brain actually connecting to this digital world. And that's a major problem. I hear that from a lot of different people I've spoken to. They say, I can't do the goggles. They make me sick. That's something that...
Well, I actually read an article recently about the Oculus goggles, and, somebody brought up an interesting point. They said that if you are buying the Oculus, goggles right now, which is pretty much the top of what's going on, those are going to be the equivalent of what adults now know as like CD-ROMs soon. Because if you look at, no, it's true because of what you just said, because remember there's virtual reality and then there's augmented reality. And a lot of people are saying that the future has kind of both. So you're seeing all of these innovations in like glasses, like that make you look cool, that you can actually walk around and experience an augmented reality combined with it. So, the idea of like standing in your own room, like Ready Player One, and not moving from where you're at. You're in some sort of, and by the way, the greatest YouTube videos that exist now are these total idiots that like forget that they're in the metaverse and then like run head first into a wall. Please, if any of you have a video like that, send it to me because I will just watch it 100 times. I just love that. But it's an interesting thing to look at as all of this stuff is happening. There's also the apparatus or the platform that us humans, if this is reality and we're zooming into metaverse, that's all changing too. So here they are trying to create the platform, but then the experience of the users is a huge part of it. So, man, there's a lot of work to do. I would assume that our little kids, Mark, are the ones that are going to benefit from it. You and I are going to probably be just like, in bed shaking one day when this is all really happening.
I think we're much closer than that. I think within 5 years, it's going to be. Within 5 years, I think that almost every home is going to have some sort of virtual reality setup.
I agree.
And I think, from a professional standpoint, like how quickly has Zoom overtaken the workplace? I mean, it's completely changed the game. And, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, case in point, Mark and I have never actually met.
Yeah.
I mean, our entire relationship is built on video. I don't even know if Mark has legs, to be honest with you. I mean, he could just be a torso rolling around.
It's possible. If you see me in Horizon Worlds, that's what I will look like. Right. But, I think it's really exciting, the technology that's going into us. I remember growing up, I'd watch Star Trek, Next Generation. It was one of my favorite shows. And they would step into a holodeck and they were just in a different world. I was like, that is amazing. That could never happen. That's just crazy. But I'll tell you, the first time I put on these goggles and I was moved into this new space, my, 13 by 13 room here, I felt like it was in a giant auditorium. It really felt that way.
That's awesome.
It's a very physiologically engaging experience. And as that gets rolled out more, as the technology gets better, both the hardware and the software, it's going to completely revolutionize. And I've kind of gone on that spiel before, but from listening to Zuck talk about where their direction's going, I don't think they're even close to failing. I think that they're just starting. I think they're dumping tons of money into the hardware. And if they can get the hardware right, if they can really make you feel like you're in an engaging experience, it's going to work. Yeah, we haven't even gotten into the augmented reality portion, which we probably don't have time today to get into, but that's kind of the next reality where there's just holograms everywhere.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think it's silly. I understand why everybody wants people like that to fail. And, it brings up another interesting concept about, you could have an amazing platform and fix all these problems. But if you're somebody that everybody doesn't like, it's going to affect the rollout. So you're going to see some interesting alignments with people. It's going to be very much like politics. And believe me, politicians are going to get involved in this too, just like the government's getting involved in crypto. Wherever there's money, a surge of money coming, you're going to see all kinds of hands in it. So I like to look at what Zuck is doing and all of these innovators and creators, that we're going to have on our show. I think that they are just excited about being in the creative process, and anybody that acknowledges the magnitude of the metaverse and what it means. I mean, we're talking about a new reality for human beings, we keep talking about moving from one planet to another. I mean, we're figuring out how to do that. This could change just the fabric of how we live. So people that are in the creative process for that, especially the wealthy ones, they understand that, the concept of failing forward. So, if you see Zuck lose $230 million, I mean, that came out of his back pocket. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, oh, interesting, interesting fluctuation in my bank account.
Yeah, drop in the bucket. We're still very early, but the way that he was talking, the ideas he was expressing, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Very excited about it. And I would definitely not bet against Meta's Metaverse. And I'm very interested to see what this new hardware looks like when it rolls out. Very interested to see what they can do with the graphics to make it more lifelike. And I think that's going to be a big game changer when people can put on this experience, go to a party, go meet people, and feel like they're in a room with real people, not just these weird looking avatars. And I think that'll be a game changer too. And there's no doubt in my mind that will come. I don't think that you're going to have to wear a whole haptic suit, but it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Not to get off on a whole tangent, but another bold prediction here is probably within 10 years, 20 years, every house is going to have like the VR room. It's just going to be an open room with nothing, maybe some sensors in the corners. And
it's like a treadmill and a helmet.
Yeah.
It's interesting about this concept of the haptic suit. We have to realize, and I speak about this in my book, this concept of that we have our six senses, of our skin. It's a haptic suit because it helps us interface with the world. That's how we see, we hear, we feel, all of that stuff. So think about this, because there's this whole innovative world of what they call smart clothing, and smart clothing started off where, you're starting to wear gear that will tell you what time it is and things like that. Don't be a fool and think that people have not already thought about just taking what we're already wearing and making those sensors to feel, to find their way in there. I mean, so we're already wearing haptic suits. They're just not geared right yet. So, this is all happening right now. And that's another interesting thing is like, unless you're that person that is like freaked out by all this and you're just going to go find like a cabin in the woods and hide there next to like Jeffrey Dahmer type people, what you're not recognizing is everybody else is going to be involved in this. And that doesn't mean you have to, but it's just like one of those things that's going to happen whether we like it or not. It's just, if you look at the advancement of technology, and this is the fear in AI, whole other topic. We can get into that some other day, but as soon as, artificial intelligence reaches what, a lot of people refer to as, passing the Turing test, what's going to happen then is we're no longer in control, rather they are, right? So there's a lot of fear associated with all this stuff, but, it's going to happen no matter what. I just hope that before, AI takes over the world that, I've slid into home.
Well, I think we can go ahead and close it out with that. And we'd love to hear your predictions. Email at us, nftsmadesimple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you and hear your bold predictions about the future of the metaverse. My money's on Zuck. I think he's gonna plug it out. I think he's gonna build some really, really powerful stuff. And thanks for subscribing. Thanks for being here. Thanks for investing in you. This 20-minute time investment in you is going to pay off big time. We'll catch you here next week on NFTs Made Simple.